your team is everything. The people that you build with, who you're at the office until 1 a.m. with.
Hello. Welcome to Term Sheet. I'm Allie Garfinkel, senior writer here at Fortune. And every week on the Term Sheet podcast, we dive into the latest news and insights in venture capital, private equity, and startups. Here's where you can get a peek behind the curtain of the VC and finance world and catch up with some of the most exciting figures in the private markets. Here's what's on my mind this week. First, Anthropic released a report on Monday that suggested that overwhelmingly a number of enterprise customers are using Claude to automate work. Now, this is coming at a time where it is very, very difficult for entry-level jobs. If you look at Bureau of Labor statistics, for example, it's also sort of in line with what we've heard from Anthropic before. Leadership at the company has definitely previously said that they do believe AI could raise the unemployment rates. It's important to say this also does paint a little bit of a rosier picture than I would expect about enterprise AI adoption. It is more difficult out there than maybe this suggests. On the ground, when you talk to people about adopting AI, it's actually very hard to automate away an entire person's job. Often what I will hear is that people will find parts of jobs can be automated away. And if you look at that MIT study from a few weeks ago, that 95% of generative AI pilots are failing, it actually suggests that this maybe isn't as simple as automating work. That being said, especially given some of the numbers we're seeing around unemployment, especially with all of the concern and pressure under entry-level jobs, it's important to take this really seriously. Elsewhere in the private markets, the US and China reached the framework of an agreement to divest TikTok from its Chinese owner, ByteDance. Now, this deal has yet to be approved by all heads of state, and it's important to say the framework of an agreement makes at least me a little bit suspicious. It reminds me of when Trump in the debates would say, I have concepts of a plan. So we'll see what happens. But what I will say is it would be a massive deal in the literal and metaphorical senses if one of the largest private companies in the world, last valued at over $300 billion, is finally outside of a standoff with the United States government. On to this week's interview. I am so excited about this one. We have Sophia, Kianni, and Phoebe Gates, co-founders of Phia. It's an AI shopping companion that's just raised a new round of funding from Kleiner Perkins. And in a term sheet first, we have their investor, Annie Case, a partner at Kleiner, joining us to talk about the future of shopping. Now, why do I care about the future of shopping? Part of it is that I have a sneaker addiction. Part of it is that I have a dress buying addiction. But also, I think it is a massively underestimated market that actually hasn't seen as much innovation as you would expect. And if there's anything we learned from Barbie Summer, and especially Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, there is a lot of power in the female consumer, and I actually am a target audience in a lot of ways for what Phia does. I was really excited to talk about this because I think that we need to spend more time talking about it, not just because it's a market for women, but because it's actually says a lot about how we spend our time, what we value, what we spend our money on. Here's Phia. Sophia, Annie, Phoebe, thank you so much for being here. This is the most people we have ever had on the Term Sheet podcast at one time. So if I'm going to ask everyone to talk about how they know each other, Sophia, I would like you to start. How did you meet Phoebe? How did you meet Annie?
Phoebe and I were roommates at Stanford, random roommates actually, and we were connected to Annie through one of our advisors.
Now, Phoebe, tell me about the first time you met Sophia.
Yeah, well, I think both of us were super nervous coming into Stanford. And you have to remember, Sophia was the youngest youth ambassador for the UN. And so my first impression of her was that she was incredibly smart. And then upon living with each other and spending a ton of time together, I realized that she was also incredibly funny.
Did you ever imagine, Sophia, that you would start a company with Phoebe?
From the moment that me and Phoebe met each other, we became instant friends and realized how much intellectual compatibility we had. So it was pretty quick, the evolution from friendship to becoming co-founders. It was just such a natural evolution that I think it just happened perfectly.
Now, I want to bring you in, Annie. When did you come into this story? How did you meet Sophia and Phoebe?
As Sophia said, we first met through an advisor, and I, got on a Zoom call with them, not knowing what to expect, and was immediately really blown away by both of them. I think, really young, but just so accomplished. Even while in undergrad at Stanford, had just done so much and built companies before, and been vocal on causes that they cared about. And as they talked about Phia and their vision for the company, I just got really excited about the opportunity to work with them and help build it.
Annie, in that first conversation, did you know you wanted to lead their Series A?
I had a sense that I did, yeah. I think as an investor, the longer you do this, the more you kind of have that like gut feel. on day one or meeting one. The diligence process is the process of either confirming or reversing that initial hypothesis. But definitely in that first call, um, I just felt the energy, I felt the excitement, and I definitely came away saying, I can't wait to spend more time with them and learn more about what they're trying to build.
Now, since I have everybody here, actually, Phoebe, Sophia, how did you know you wanted Annie to be part of the Fia journey?
Funnily enough, honestly, I would say the exact same feeling where we were taking initial calls with investors and we were really blown away by the amount of care that Annie showed during the process. She asked great questions. She was from Kleiner Perkins, of course, a really respected firm. And she was, quite frankly, a woman who understood the pain points that we were experiencing in shopping and really resonated with the solution that we were building. So we came away from the meeting just incredibly excited and thinking that she could 100% be someone we would want to partner with on our seed round.
Phoebe, you totally smiled when Annie said she knew that she wanted to lead your Series A. Why?
I think because for us, we were really excited about Annie when we first met her as well. And I remember shortly after that first call, she connected us with Tracy, who's actually been a pivotal mentor for both me and Sophia, who founded the company Tradesy that Kleiner Perkins also invested in. And so yeah, it was an incredible synergy the first time we met. And I think the partnership really has only grown from there.
Now, tell me about why this funding round, why now, what growth looks like from here for Fia. And I want to hear it from each of you. Phoebe, I'm going to ask you to start.
Yeah, Phia really hit the market as essentially a tool that helps consumers in that point of consideration as they're shopping know whether or not they should buy this, which is a question not only we ask, but millions of women around the world ask. And I think the really exciting thing about retail is it fundamentally hasn't evolved in the last 10 years. Retail is incredibly fragmented. You don't know where to go to discover the item. You don't know if you're getting the best price. And so the idea that we can enter in by solving this pain point at that point of consideration and then expand holistically to be the AI shopping assistant is really, really exciting for me. And I'll let Sophia take it away on the growth we've seen thus far.
Yeah, we launched Phia just a few months ago and we just crossed over 430,000 downloads. So it's been incredibly exciting seeing that we have tens of thousands of daily active users who are using the platform, transacting, driving revenue. And we are now in a phase of wanting to catalyze on that growth. So we're starting to double down and build out our team. We are currently a small but mighty team of 10 based out of Union Square in New York City. And I think it's just the right time for us to completely revolutionize the way that people are shopping. And we're doing it with this initial wedge of a mobile browser extension that helps people save time and money.
And Annie, for you, why this? Why now? What do you think in terms of the size of the market for Fia?
Yeah, I think there's tremendous opportunity beyond this initial wedge. I think when we first started talking about what they wanted to build, I from conversation one, the vision has been much grander, and the conversations we've had have been around what product do you launch with, how do you test whether there's excitement about this, and how do you build trust and loyalty and appreciation with consumers, and then what does that earn the right to then go build from there. And so I think the retail market is massive, one of the biggest industries in the world. And so there's just so many directions that you could take this. I think they were super smart to start with a very real pain point, and build trust and credibility. And then, a lot of the conversations we've had around what could be next, and areas I get excited about around, the AI personal shopper, and what's possible with new technology. I think a lot of that's on the come, but we've gotten a really great start in the initial wedge product that we've launched.
Now, before we get into more about the future, I kind of want to go back in time. So, Phoebe, Sophia, you both are roommates at Stanford. Sophia, I read that what happened was you guys locked yourselves in your dorm room, basically. Can you start telling that story? And Phoebe, can you finish telling that story?
Phoebe and I were taking this AI entrepreneurship class together at Stanford, and we had to come up with a problem to work on. And our very initial idea was, which we've spoken about, was a smart tampon. And we
What?
very quickly, it was a smart tampon, like an Aura ring, giving you insights into your hormones every month. Very funnily enough, I don't know if we've said this, but there is a team at Stanford of people in Stanford Medical School who are actually building this exact same thing. We actually got on a Zoom call with them as we were doing some market landscaping, and they're doing amazing work. And we very quickly realized we are not the right people to build this. We don't have the right background, and this is not a company we could see ourselves building for the next 5 or 10 years. And with Thea, we wanted to understand, okay, what are common pain points both me and Phoebe experience? Where are opportunities for us to leverage AI to really push forward innovation? And we landed on the concept for Thea. I'll pass off to Phoebe to give more color.
Yeah, I think it really became a sprint in our minds of what could we do and what could we come up with. Never in our lives had we been, tasked with this idea. And both me and Sophia are very, innately competitive people. We love to play, games. We love to solve puzzles. And it was a competition. We were the only undergrads in this MBA class. And we really loved our professor. She's actually who gave us our original 250K in seed funding. And so it was very important for the two of us to impress her and come up with a good idea out the gate. And so I remember it was about 2.5 weeks we spent in our dorm room, quite literally not seeing anyone else, not seeing our families, not talking with other people. We had a giant whiteboard that replaced our entire living room. And we come up with different ideas and we take Zoom calls with experts. We'd read studies, we do market landscaping. And it became almost this like Olympiad of what idea should we build and what would be really interesting. And I think what both of us didn't understand was that it wasn't just for this class and it became so much more than that very quickly.
Interesting. So it sounds like part of what happened is it was you wanted to sort of do right by this professor who you loved. And then you sort of said, actually, wait, we really want to do this.
It almost felt like as we continued to pull at the thread of what shopping could be in the future, as you think of an agentic landscape, we just kept unraveling more and more pain points in the consumer landscape. And of course, the first thing to solve is that question of should I buy this? But there was so much more there. And now we've probably talked to, I mean, upwards of 5,000 women about their shopping habits. I have records of, thousands of interviews. And we'd literally be sitting in our dorm room, talking to different people about their shopping habits and realizing all the different pain points that we could solve over time. And so it almost was like this ball of yarn that unraveled itself. And we were like, wow, we could spend the next, 20 years building this and really thinking about how the landscape could adapt over time.
Well, it's also so personal, right? Like we were even talking about this when we met. I started using Phia because I've been on a jewelry buying kick, and it is actually helpful to know if I can get something for a better price elsewhere because I am a very devoted shopper, but I am a lazy online shopper. If it is there, I will do it. Sophia, you're nodding. Why are you nodding? Have you heard this one before?
I mean, I feel the exact same way. This is basically how the conversation went with me and Phoebe, where we were just talking about pain points we experience, and we were basically talking about online shopping. And we were saying, man, why is it so difficult and so annoying? You can find an item you like, and then you want to find it secondhand. Then you need to go on Poshmark, Depop, The Real Real, Vestiaire Collective. There are so many secondhand websites, and you need to go through manually and check every single one to understand whether or not you're getting the best price, which absolutely, as a college student, was what I was doing. And we both really realized we were very passionate about secondhand shopping specifically, and that very few people, I think we had asked our class of 30 people how many of them had secondhand shopped before, and only two said that they had. We realized that there was the market tailwind where secondhand was expanding at a rate 10 times higher than retail. And we also saw it as the perfect entry point and wedge of ultimately consumers care about really two things when they're shopping. Number one being saving money, the most important of all, and then also saving time. And we thought, well, if we just aggregate secondhand options for a retail item that someone is looking at, it's such a win-win because they can save upwards of like 75% on the item. And we do all that work for them in just a few seconds. Let's try it. And it was really exciting to see when we did build our initial prototype in our class, people were a lot more open to like wanting to look at secondhand options and thought that it was really clever.
Well, and sort of to this end, part of it is that is something people want to use again. And I want to bring you in here, Annie, because you have so much experience with consumer apps. What does it take to get a consumer app like this right?
First, I have to. As you guys were talking about the dorm room experience, I was laughing because I remember doing references on Phoebe and Sophia when I was considering leading their round and talking to people who'd worked with them or knew them from before. And one of their peers from Stanford, you talked about Allie, this like 3 week period where they locked themselves in their room. I called this peer of theirs from Stanford, who's also a founder, and was like, what are they like? What were they like? Should I work with them? And he was like, they're hardcore. Like they're hardcore. I think he'd been around and seen when they disappeared for a few weeks and went after this problem and went to learn about it and was just like hats off to them. Like they're really going after it. So that was another positive indication and made me lean in and want to lead around. And I was just laughing about thinking of them locked in their dorm rooms, toiling away on this, and building credibility with the founder community as a
It's the
result.
kind of founder behavior you want to see.
Yeah, totally. I was like, I like hardcore. That sounds great. And while in college, you're like, you have other classes going on, you have other stuff to be doing, and you're like, no, we're gonna build this company and get it off the ground and do things right. So I was just blown away by that. But anyway, to your question about what does it take to get things right in consumer? Yeah, I mean, I think consumer is beautiful and terrifying in that there's no one way. I think it is a you've seen a lot of the consumer successes over the years actually be second acts or pivots from the first business or a start with a very wedge product and then build capabilities over time. I think there's no one right way to build a company or build a consumer company, and I think part of what you have to do, particularly when you're investing as early as we are with this one at the seed round, is just believing deeply, deeply in the founding team, which we do here in Phoebe and Sophia, and then also believing in the market and the tailwinds around the market. Which for me, this is a market that has been around and massive for a long time. I think the tailwind or like what's changing, why now, was around AI and new capabilities with technology, and I think matching amazing team with a massive market and tech tailwinds is kind of the recipe for success that we were looking for and what got me really excited about this one.
Well, and sort of to this end, and this is something you said earlier, I think, Phoebe, consumer, particularly retail, the experience hasn't changed as much as you would think over the last decade. As you guys sort of describe the inflection point that consumer is at right now, why would you say that this is the right time for change? I imagine AI is part of it, but also I imagine is also about kind of people's inclination to interface with new technology right about now.
Yeah, I'd say you're exactly right. I think it's interesting because when you think about it, two-thirds of US GDP is consumer spending. And yet the way that consumers are shopping really hasn't changed. And there's constant complaints from shoppers about, the amount of ads that they're being flooded with. There's articles about online shopping no longer being fun. And it's a function of the fact that, a business like Fia is possible today that can, deal with over 200 million pieces of data and quickly fetch you the best result for you, can deal with things like personalization, can deal with things like insights of what size you should wear or what the retained value of an item is going to be. That kind of processing and being able to do that super quickly was not possible previously.
I also have to ask, when you told your dad you were going to go start a company, what did he say?
I think he was, really mm, I think that my dad was super excited for me. I mean, it was important for both my parents and for Sophia's parents that we both, finished school. And, neither of my parents are experts in the retail or e-commerce landscape, but I think they were both, excited for us and they were nervous about the journey that we were about to go on, but excited. And I think it was the first time they'd seen me so passionate and lit up by an idea.
Did they give you any advice?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I got, not only from my dad, but from both of my parents, that has really, resonated and just been incredibly true as we continue to build out the FIA team is that your team is everything. The people that you build with, who you're at the office until 1 a.m. with, even it comes down to, the summer intern you have, the people that you choose to build with every single day, whether that's, like your incredible co founder, like I have Sophia, that's what's actually going to define, whether the product succeeds. And I think that that's been really important for me and Sophia because, not only are we focusing on a product that has, product market fit, but we're also thinking about founder market fit. We are the women who use this product day in and day out. And that's why we wanted to bring into our cap table people who really understood this problem of how shopping could adapt and where it needed to go, like Annie or, Sarah Blakely, Sheryl Sandberg, Hailey Bieber, which will be announced when this comes out. And so that's why it was really foundational for us, not only to have, women on our cap table, but particularly people who understood this problem.
Well, and I'd be curious to bring you in on this, Sophia, too. How has that sort of translated into how you think about hiring? It also, you guys bring up your mentors a lot. It seems like you spend a lot of time, both of you, thinking about who the right people in this equation are.
100%. Like Phoebe was saying, we realized really early on the team you build is the company you build. Even for myself, with my experience in college, I built my nonprofit, Climate Cardinals, from what was just a childhood idea to now a full time nonprofit that has three full time people, many of whom were people I met when I was in college who now have joined the organization full time. And I really believe the only reason I was able to have this nonprofit succeed me and go on beyond me was that my number one goal was, how do I find people who are incredibly mission aligned, intelligent, and excited about the specific problem that I was working on, which was climate education. And that very same thing has been applied when it comes to Phia, where this company is really a sum of both Phoebe and myself, but also both our advisors and the incredible people that we work with every single day on the engineering end, on the product end. And that has been one of the biggest things we've focused on as really first time tech founders. And like we were talking about earlier, the introduction that Annie made to Tracy, who was the founder of Tradesy, which was a really successful secondhand marketplace, was instrumental because she had dealt with a lot of the problems and a lot of the nuances of the secondhand space. And she had a lot of industry expertise and knowledge to share with us. And our number one goal also has been ultimately learning as much as we can as quickly as possible. And that has never really been possible before now, because with AI, you can now take people who are extremely hungry and scrappy and equip them with exactly what they need to be able to run and work and move extremely fast. And that's really the philosophy that we've employed, is that we want to absorb and be sponges and be cognizant of all these incredible industry experts that we have been able to bring on as both investors and also as advisors, and use them to really transmit as much of that knowledge as possible to our team so that we can run at attacking this problem space as diligently as possible.
One of the things this all makes me think about too is that the numbers on VC funding that goes to women are still abysmal, right? I mean, Annie, I'd be really curious. What is your sort of take on the state of VC backing to female entrepreneurs right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an area we need to continue to do better. I think I and a lot of the investors that I collaborate with and love and are friends of mine. I think I don't think anyone goes into a first meeting thinking like, oh, these are female founders or these are male founders, and you put them in that bucket. So I don't think it is a conscious bias by any stretch. I really think it's so much of the meetings that we take and people we meet are network driven. It's people recommending people that they know and may have worked with before. And so I think it's also a product of the VC landscape where, most of the check writers at VC firms continue to be men. And so more of their networks and friends and, frat brothers from college and people that they worked with previously are also men. And so you end up seeing more people that they know come in through the funnel of founders. I think it's helpful to have female VCs who may have networks that skew more female. Um, but I also think, if you actually look at the numbers, there are also more men starting companies. So it's not purely 50% of companies are being started by women and they're only getting 2% of the funding. It's actually, more men are starting companies. And you can ask, why is that? And what can we do to change that? I think, how do we encourage women to take bigger swings, take big risks earlier in their careers? I think there's a, common discussion around how women, when applying for jobs, will wait until they hit 10 out of 10 criteria before applying, whereas men will apply with 4 out of 10 criteria saying, bet on me anyway. And I think there's something to that with female founders too, where it's, oh, I'm not ready yet. I need to go work at a large tech company or 3 startups to gain the experience and credibility before I decide to start my own company. I think Phoebe and Sophia are incredible. Well, Sophia had already started a company previously, so she already had that experience. But to say, I am young, but I know I can do this, and there's so much that I don't know, but we can surround ourselves with people we can learn from, and we can learn on the go and figure it out. And I hope that they can be icons and show that more women earlier in their careers can take the big swing and big bet, and figure things out. I think that's the only way that it'll get better.
You said the 10 out of 10 criteria statistic, and I was like, "Oh, that's me. I am that. I am that person who does that. I'm just gonna own up to that." Um, Phoebe, Sophia, you both really reacted to that, so I wanna go to you.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I just want to double click on what Annie said. It's about, we don't have enough female capital allocators who are really making the decisions of who gets money in their hands. And then it's a function of, we don't teach women to go start companies. We don't teach women that equity really, really matters and isn't taxed the same as salaries, or it's okay to start something and to learn. That's actually, if you want to get a job in big tech later, that's actually something they look for on resumes. So I think it's a function of the education that we don't deliver to women. And then also just a function of, it's really important that we have more female capital allocators. But I'd say another thing that, we've talked about and coalesced a lot on in our conversations between like me, Sophia, and Annie is that it's also an incredible opportunity. I mean, if you think about only 2% of VC funding is going to solely female founded businesses, you're really missing out on an entire, market of different problems that are addressing a certain audience. And so that's why I think we don't see the retail landscape being adapted in amongst, a number of different problems that specifically target women because you don't have the right founders who are getting capital allocated towards them to actually solve those problems. So it's a huge issue and it's also an incredible market opportunity.
Sophia, I want to bring you in. Is there anything you want to add?
Well, one thing I would add is just who better to build a fashion tech company than two women who really understand the space, resonate with the problem, and that's what we really focused on when we were thinking about starting this company, raising this round. It was really oriented in we understand this customer because we are this customer. We are building a tool we ourselves personally wish we had and solving for a problem we actually understand and believe exists. And augmented with that, we've been able to rapidly iterate and ship and gain great traction in a very short period of time because we've been so customer obsessed and close to these other young women. For example, we've talked about this, but we have over 20 women come to our office at least twice a month to just give us very raw, candid feedback on their experience using our mobile browser extension and app. And we typically source also the people who are the power users of Phia so that we can understand what do they like about the platform, what do they wish was better, what do they want to see, what other problems are they experiencing. And really the reason they've been able to trust us and develop such a strong relationship with us where we have these group chats where testing and iterating and shipping features just in betas to these power users is because they think of us as people who are very similar to them, people who understand the problem and are innovating on a solution that we really want to help them and make their shopping smarter and easier. And I think that's given us a huge advantage when it comes to a landscape that more and more people are realizing is a huge opportunity that is ripe for innovation. And I am very glad that we've been able to also curate our cap table in a way where it is bolstered by incredible people like Annie, like Hailey, like Kris, who are women who understand the problem and are able to add their own unique insight or their own unique contribution that helps us to tackle it in an even more efficient way.
Do you guys remember Barbie Summer and like the way it coincided with the Eras tour and how there was this discourse of, oh my God, women have so much purchasing power? I remember finding that to be so interesting because, of course, duh, that's what all the statistics say. But also in the aftermath, I do sometimes still feel like the market of like that is directed at women like me is still underestimated. I was wondering, do any of you have the sense that that's true, or am I being unfair?
No, I mean, I think that's right. I think
You think okay, okay, I'm not being
I
crazy.
don't no, I don't think you're crazy at all. I think there are yeah, there's boundless opportunity there to build, by women for women. And the more women we can help get funded and off to the races on building those dreams, the better products and services we'll all be able to enjoy.
As we start to wind down here, is there anything unique about being a Gen Z entrepreneur? I think I'll go to you, Phoebe.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's really unique about us is we are approaching founding companies in a different way as a function of the way we grew up, right? We grew up online. We are constantly consuming content and overwhelmed by social media, marketing materials. And so I think when we think about starting a company, we are always leaning into things with how do we build a foundational system from the ground up using AI, whether that's our marketing strategy, whether that's our outreach campaigns for bringing on more incredible brand partners, whether that's, how we hire new candidates. We are always asking how they are leveraging technology to build. And then I think the other thing about being a Gen Z founder that's really exciting, and I don't think that this is necessarily a generational thing, but there is something special about, being in this period of life where me and Sophia are able to give 120% to the business, right? We're able to focus on this fully because this is our number one thing that we are doing. This is what consumes our mind 24/7, and there aren't other responsibilities. I think that no one can go against the power of an incredibly committed group of young people.
Sophia, I would also be really curious, as you sort of think about, being a Gen Z founder, giving 120%, what does an average day look like? Like, how many hours are you talking to Phoebe?
Well, our team works in person in Union Square in New York City, and we typically get in around 9:30, and we are here well into the evening. Whether sometimes it's a little earlier, I'd say earliest side is maybe 7:30 or 8, and then other days it's until 1 or 2 a.m. And what's really important to emphasize is it's because we really enjoy the work that we're doing. One of our advisors said to me, and he was joking, but I think about it a lot, that the moment someone touches corporate America and has that experience of a typical 9 to 5, they don't understand the type of energy and hustle and creativity that is born as a result of working on a startup where it doesn't even feel like work. To me, every single day feels like I am solving a really hard, complicated problem, whether that's sitting with our designers and working through the product problems that we're processing and working on our Figmas, or talking through bottlenecks with our engineers and pushing and trying to see where there's opportunity for innovation, or even on the marketing side. And to double click on what Phoebe said, the real opportunity of being a Gen Z founder today is that we can use AI to literally automate everything. And even on our marketing end, we've talked about this, and right now over 2/3, well over 2/3 of our users are organically acquired, and it all has come down to very diligent strategy of being able to scrape, analyze videos that have gone viral, recreate hooks that are really effective, and have a really strong organic distribution engine that I would say a lot of the really successful breakout consumer technology companies that we're seeing today are also using very similar techniques. And it's things like we talk about with other founders. And I don't think that that's something a 40-year-old marketing CMO is doing. It's something that these Gen Z scrappy founders are doing because they now know that like N8N exists and that you can build out all of these AI automations. And that's something that we really look for now when we're hiring people and bringing people onto our team is a willingness to be scrappy, to learn, and to understand and immerse yourself in the tools that now exist that make it possible for one person really to do the job of 10.
Annie, last big question for you. How do you see the future of shopping?
Fia's gonna build it. So Sophia and Phoebe are gonna tell me. I think that's the beauty of this really is like we are learning and iterating from the people who are using Fia every day. And, every conversation I have with Sophia and Phoebe, it's like a new, every 2 weeks or 3 weeks when we get on, more like board call type of updates, it's like, here's the new set of insights that we have from just the last couple of weeks. And here's what we're going to go and try next and implement. And I think that's the way to do it. It's like, I know they're going to build it because I've just seen the pace of execution, the feedback from users, and yeah, I think that future is more personalized. I think there will be agents involved. There will be a lot of work that is taken off the individual shopper's plate, and you will be served things that you, or even things that will be purchased on your behalf without you even knowing it, because it is so obvious that that is the thing that you want to buy and need next. And so I think it'll be a lot more, endless clicking and tab views, and a lot more just the right thing, coming to your door at the right time.
All right, I'm going to come to you, Sophia and Phoebe. Um, what does the future of shopping look like, and what user conversations have you had that have most illuminated that? Sophia, I'm going to start with you.
The future of shopping is smarter and more intuitive. The real thing we have been trying to answer with Thea is that fundamental question of should I buy this? And we're starting first at the end of the funnel when someone has identified an item that they like to be able to tell them whether or not they should buy it based on the price point. There are so many more factors that go into that decision. And our ultimate goal is that you will go to Thea to start your shopping journey, and we will be able to predict what you want before you even know because we will be your shopping brain. We will be your assistant that knows you and your tastes and preferences better than any other platform. And we're really excited to build for a future where, with the innovations of technology, this is now a reality.
Phoebe, you get the last word. Where is this all headed?
Just to echo that, no more tabs, no more filling out long checkout pages, no more ordering things that come and that aren't in your size. Just Fia that does it all for you.
Do you know how, like, when you talk about food, you get hungry? When we've been talking about shopping, and it really makes me want to go buy something.
Go on, Fia.
I have been though. I actually have been. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Allie.
Thank you.
And that was Sophia, Phoebe, and Annie. This interview really made me think a lot about how much we still don't know about what it means to optimize a shopping experience. And it's important to say, I don't think shopping is just an economic activity. It's an emotional activity. It's a sociological activity. And I think that it is something that actually can be improved upon over time. We've lived in a world where people have gotten really good, companies have gotten really good at optimizing for ads, things that they kind of know you want. But what does it actually mean to make it a better experience? And I don't know, I think Gen Z's may be the ones to do it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon. Term Sheet is a Fortune magazine podcast. Our producer editors are Elena Steth and Allison Rogers. Our executive producer is Lydia Randall. Our production manager is Sam Freund. Fortune's head of video is Adam Bannicky.